In the last days of December 1980, something came down in an English forest between two military air bases operated by the United States Air Force. We know this case differently than every other case in this series, because when the deputy base commander walked into those trees to investigate, he brought a microcassette recorder, and he left it running. What you are about to hear throughout this episode is that recording, made by a United States Air Force lieutenant colonel on duty in real time.
Expected impact point. Having a lift going, we can't get the light all to work. Seems to be some kind of mechanical problem. Let's send it back and get another light. Meantime, we're going to take some readings for the Geiger counter and
This is UAP Press. We don't tell you what to believe. We show you the record, the witnesses on the record, the documents the government's released, and this time, the audio the record kept. And let the file speak for itself. RAF Woodbridge and RAF Bentwaters sit a few miles apart in Suffolk, on England's east coast. Twin bases, British names, but in 1980 home to the United States Air Force's 81st Tactical Fighter Wing, and long reported, though never officially confirmed, to hold nuclear weapons. Between the two bases lies Rendlesham Forest, miles of planted pine, dark and ruler straight. Around 3 in the morning on December 26th, Boxing Day, security police at Woodbridge's East Gate saw lights descending into the forest. The first thought was reasonable. An aircraft had gone down. 3 patrolmen were sent into the trees to check. Among them, Staff Sergeant Jim Penniston and Airman First Class John Burroughs. What Penniston reported finding was not wreckage. His account, logged, sketched, and repeated for 4 decades, describes a small triangular craft resting in a clearing, roughly 3 meters across, its surface smooth and warm to the touch, marked with raised symbols he copied into his notebook. Burroughs, nearby, described the clearing filled with light and the air thick with static. And then, in their telling, it rose through the trees and was gone. Local police, called out, found only the beam of a distant lighthouse. But in daylight, the airmen found 3 indentations in the frozen ground, pressed in a triangle, and days later, higher radiation readings at those marks than in the surrounding soil. Hold every piece of that. The skeptics file will want each one. Under normal procedure, that would have been the end. An odd report, an unofficial shrug. What made Rendlesham permanent is that the deputy base commander, Lieutenant Colonel Charles Halt, put it on paper. His memorandum to the British Ministry of Defence, subject line, "Unexplained Lights," is 1 page long, dry as a manifest, and it is real. You are looking at it now. The memo did something almost unheard of. It entered the file through the front door. When it surfaced through the Freedom of Information Act 3 years later, it did so on official letterhead with a lieutenant colonel's signature, a document no one could call a rumor. The British press called the case Britain's Roswell. The name stuck, but notice the difference. Roswell has a retraction at its center. Rendlesham has a memo that was never withdrawn. 2 nights after the first encounter, the lights came back, and this time, Halt went into the forest himself with a security detail, a Geiger counter, and the recorder. 18 minutes survive. Listen to how it begins, not with wonder, with procedure. A career officer logging readings.
8 degrees from the site. I'm through to the clearing now. Still getting a reading on the meter. About 2 clicks. Meter's jumped 3 to 4 clicks. Getting stronger. Now it's coming up. Hold up. There we go. It's about approximately 4 foot off the ground. It's a compass head of 110 degrees. All right, just turn the meter off. Got to say that again. About 4 feet off the ground, about 110 degrees, getting a reading of about 4 clicks.
Minutes in, the procedure starts to bend. The men see a red light through the trees, moving, breaking apart, throwing off glowing fragments. Halt's voice stays level, but the intervals between his words get shorter. Whatever is out there is not holding still.
There is no doubt about it. There's some type of strange flashing red light ahead. It's yellow. I saw a yellow tinge in it too. Weird. It appears to be maybe moving a little bit this way. It's brighter than it has been. Yellow. It's coming this way. It is definitely coming this way. Pieces of it are shooting off. There is no doubt about it. This is weird. To the left. Yeah, definitely. There's two lights. One light to the front, okay. One light to the left. Keep the flashlights off. There's something very, very strange. Get the headset.
This is weird. Sit with who is saying that and where. A lieutenant colonel of the United States Air Force, deputy commander of a nuclear-capable installation, on duty, on tape, telling his own recorder that what he is watching defies him. Halt would later state that beams from the objects came down inside the base perimeter, near the weapons storage area. That last claim is his testimony, made repeatedly, including in a notarized affidavit in 2010. The tape itself is fact. What it captures is the question. Now the counter-reading, and Rendlesham's is one of the best in the literature. 5 miles from those trees stands the Orfordness lighthouse. From inside the forest, on the sightline the airmen walked, its beam pulsed roughly every 5 seconds, low, bright, and to men who did not know it was there, moving. This is it in daylight. Skeptics note the flashing light on the tape recurs at intervals uncannily close to 5 seconds. The file continues. A brilliant fireball crossed southern England at almost exactly the moment the first lights were reported. A plausible trigger for the crash. The indentations, a forester said, matched rabbit diggings. The radiation readings sat within the instrument's margin for background. And the accounts grew. Penniston's notebook is period. His account of receiving binary code from the craft surfaced 3 decades later, and we treat it accordingly, as a later addition, not part of the 1980 record. That is a real explanation, assembled from real parts. Lighthouse, meteor, rabbits, memory. And here is what it must carry. Trained security police, on a base they patrolled every night of their working lives, who had walked that forest and seen that lighthouse for months, mistaking it, at close range, for a landed craft with a hull warm to the touch. The lighthouse explains a light. It has always struggled to explain the clearing. The Rendlesham file holds the season's strangest inventory. A signed memo no one retracted, 18 minutes of an officer's voice the Air Force never disputed, witnesses who never recanted, and a lighthouse standing exactly where the skeptics say it stands. Both readings survive the tape. That is rare and worth saying plainly. Charles Halt retired a colonel and spent 40 years repeating, under oath and on stages, the same sentence. He believes what his men saw was not of this world. The Ministry of Defense closed its file with the words, "No defense significance." Between the colonel's affidavit and the ministry's shrug sits everything this series is about. Every case in this season has lived downstream of one story. The crash that taught the world the words, "flying saucer." The file every government answer has been measured against since 1947. Next time, we open the original. And we are going to do something with it that this niche almost never does. Read the record honestly, including the parts that have an explanation. Roswell. That's the next case file. Subscribe so you don't miss it. This is UAP Press. The file stays open.